Senator Rob Portman. He serves on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Portman, I haven't seen you since the new year. Happy New Year, sir. Blessings to you and your family.
Chrissy, Happy New Year to you, and congratulations on your show last night. I thought you did a great job in being objective, talking about some of the issues.
Oh, thank you, Senator. You're dealing with some really big issues yourself. Sex Trafficking Awareness Day is today, integral to your own agenda. Opioids, the interdict program with the president, your battle in your own state, big issues we will discuss. Help me check some of the politics boxes here for us as well. Republicans should take control of the investigation. What does the president mean?
You have to ask him. I do think we have a serious and bipartisan investigation here on the Hill that's going to be successful in getting to the bottom of what happened, and that's in the Senate Intelligence Committee. I know less about the House Intelligence Committee investigation. I'm confident that Chairman Richard Burr and Ranking Member Mark Warner are doing a good job. I've had an opportunity to speak with both of them about their ongoing work. And I think we got to let Mueller get to the bottom of it, too. As you know, you mentioned him on the Foreign Relations Committee. For years, I've been concerned about Russia's interference, particularly in fledgling democracies around the world, but also meddling in our own election. It's not new. They've been doing it for a while. They did it before Donald Trump. They'll be doing it after Donald Trump unless we make some changes. So I think it's a serious issue. There was a report issued this week about some of the meddling in European elections, particularly Eastern European countries. And, it's trying to increase uncertainty, instability in these democracies, and it needs to be addressed.
Are you concerned that the president seems to disagree with you, thinks it's not serious, thinks it's a witch hunt, and now says he doesn't know if he'll sit down with Bob Mueller?
Well, I think he's focused more on the issue of his campaign and the issue of collusion. I don't think he disagrees with the fact that the Russians have been meddling.
Do you know that?
Not just in our elections, but in other elections as well.
Because he doesn't say it. That's why I ask you for clarification.
Yeah, well, look, I think the facts are pretty clear, and I think they're very clear, in fact, and I know that he and his team are concerned about what the Russians are doing, again, not just in this country, but other countries.
Okay, let me ask you something else. Immigration, very important issue. We need to see if there can be a compromise. Both sides are digging in. The wall is a big issue. Do you know what the president means by a wall?
I think I do, and if you look at his latest proposal he sent to Congress just a week or so ago, it included some additional fencing and wall. It also included more border security in terms of personnel and more technology, all of which I think is appropriate, and I think most Democrats do as well.
But there's confusion, though, Senator, right? Because you hear so many Democrats and some Republicans saying, yes, that's what he means, what you just said. That wall is now a metaphor. It means the type of security you need based on the context and condition. But then the president comes out and says, no. It's a wall. We have to build the wall. And that was obviously his signature promise. So do you think it is no longer this 30-foot tall bricks and mortar border that he can build in 1 year for a certain budget of certain billions of dollars? Do you think that has actually changed, or is it still unclear?
I think it's what he talked about the other day.
Okay.
He brought the media in for a 45-minute discussion with the Republicans and Democrats alike, and he talked about the need to extend the existing fencing and walls. As I look at the math, Chris, it's about 350 miles of additional fencing or walls over a 2,000-mile border. This would be mostly in the more suburban and urban areas where you do have a big issue, not just with immigration, but obviously one of the issues I care a lot about is the drug issue. We do have very little enforcement right now along the border in terms of stopping heroin and increasingly fentanyl, much of which comes from China, but then it comes over from Mexico.
Right. But you know that the wall isn't, I don't have to tell you this. Everybody should know Senator Portman is as read in on anyone when it comes to opioids and what we're dealing with and why. You do know that we are not a wall away in any form from stopping the movement of drugs. Most of it's coming, over or through legitimate ports of entry. It's coming through tunnels with fentanyl. This is high-grade pharmaceuticals we're talking about. It's coming by big cargo carrier. We're not a wall away from stopping that problem.
No, but it would help. It also actually would help in terms of the other issue we're going to talk about in a moment, which is trafficking. And
yes,
this is something that we're focused on this month, being Human Trafficking Month. Today is Human Trafficking Day, Awareness Day, and so it would help. And I think that's more where we're headed as a country, is a way to have a more secure border. If you just have a wall and don't have the personnel to respond when it's breached, then it's not very effective. In some areas, as you say, it's more effective to have technology. I think it's a combination of those things, but I think the commitment the president made in the campaign which I think most Americans agree with, is you got to have a more secure border, particularly our southern border.
Well, his commitment was an actual wall, and Mexico would pay for it. And clearly, he doesn't mean that anymore. Hopefully, it's not a reflection on credibility in general. Let's take this opportunity on sex trafficking. I direct people to go online, HLN. We did a documentary on sex trafficking in this country. It is a problem people don't understand. When they hear it, they'll say, yes, I know sex trafficking. Women, young women, girls, even from abroad, it's a foreign problem. Sometimes they get brought here. But that's not the reality. What are you dealing with, Senator?
It's not the reality, and I've told you this before. I appreciate the fact that you have raised awareness on the issue. Sadly, Chris, in this country, in this century, we actually see an increase in sex trafficking, a substantial increase if you look at the data from some of the experts, including the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And they mostly, the experts mostly related to one thing, which is the growth of selling people online, women and children, through the internet. And this is where the focus of our legislation is to take away a current immunity. Unbelievably, if you're an organization online, selling people online, knowingly selling girls underage as an example, you have in effect an immunity under a federal law called the Communications Decency Act. We want to change that. We did this in a very narrow, targeted way to ensure freedom of the internet, but also to ensure that this kind of horrific behavior wouldn't continue. And our legislation now has 64 co-sponsors. We want to get it to the floor for a vote and begin to help change this incredible dynamic that is so tragic in my view, which is an increase in human trafficking here in this country.
Well, Senator, as I've said before, you have the number, you know how to get us. Please keep us informed about what happens with the process of passage on this, what happens with the process of passage on opioid reforms. Let us know who's standing in the way so we can ask them and hold them to account for why they are being resistant to these real problems. Thank you, Senator Portman. Appreciate you on the show, as always.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Right. Allison.